The South African Communist Party Central Committee has resolved to continue to contest next year's local government elections. Alliance relations between the ANC and the SACP will further fracture as the communists are speeding ahead in contesting alone in the local government elections. Party General Secretary Solly Mapaila has warned against select amnesia of certain ANC leaders who accuse the SACP of being opportunists. Mapaila says the party will continue to contest because the ANC has failed to transform the tripartite alliance.
The SACP condemns all attempts to provoke such conflict. The SACP is not preoccupied with contesting the ANC, which remains an ally as long as we share strategic objectives both in theory and practice. Exercising our rights, the SACP will contest the 2026 local government elections to defend, advance and deepen the national democratic revolution in connection with the pursuit of socialism while confronting the failed neoliberal policy regime imposed since 1996 under GEA and subsequent reformist policies. Those who invoke selective amnesia ignore that the SACP rescinded its short-lived initial statement on GEA, replacing it not only with subsequent statements, resolutions and declarations, but above all, also with a consistent campaign against the policy.
To talk more about the outcomes of the SACP Central Executive Committee meeting, we are joined in studio by its spokesperson, Mbulelo Mandlana. Very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you, Mpo. Thank you.
Your decision as the SACP to go for elections solo seems to have deepened the rift between the SACP and the ANC. Was this an inevitable outcome, or do you believe the ANC left the SACP no choice at all as we listen into, the being resolute that this will happen either way?
As the Communist Party, when we decided to take this posture in 2022, when our Congress first made this decision, and then of course confirmed it last year, the intention really was to take forward the Communist Party's program. It was not to solicit a certain reaction from any person, including the ANC, because the Communist Party is indeed, and the ANC people will tell you this, an independent organization that has a right to take a decision that it chooses to take relative to the political program it pursues, including, for example, the fact that we're in the alliance is a consequence of the decision of the Communist Party. So therefore, the changing of the format of the functioning of that alliance is also a matter that the Communist Party has a right to consider on its own.
ANC Secretary General Mbulelo recently suggested that SACP members who are deployed in government may need to now choose sides. I mean, what's your response to that? Do you interpret that statement at all as a political threat?
Let me tell you what we consider to be true. The first point is that the Secretary General of the ANC cannot determine the membership of the members of the Communist Party who also happen to be members of the ANC. The alliance is built on dual membership. And the fact that those comrades who may be members of the Communist Party, members of the ANC at the same time, exist and are in leadership should not be a basis for a political punishment and a political witch hunt. And the Communist Party would think that this is very incorrect position. Unfortunately, it appears as though the Secretary General is the only one who seems to insist on this line. The President, for example, in the recent National Executive Committee, did say that, in fact, the ANC respects the right of these comrades to be members of the ANC and members of the Communist Party, and the Communist Party too, to act on its own in relation to questions on elections. Yeah.
Critics may argue that the SACP has historically benefited from the alliance and government deployments, and now that the ANC is at a position where it finds itself politically weakened, the SACP is now distancing itself. Sure. How do you respond to accusations of political opportunism?
Those allegations would have to read them to be read historically. And if they make those allegations, they cannot pass the test of authenticity, because in the last 30 years, the Communist Party has always presented its positions independently and even criticized certain decisions and actions of the ANC and government, some of which the Communist Party has itself been criticized by the ANC for having.
Yeah.
So anybody who argues that the Communist Party is suddenly holding these positions on the grounds only that the ANC seems to be sliding in the polls is not looking at the totality of the picture, is looking only at one aspect in order to make this convenient conclusion.
And are you concerned at all that contesting elections independently might fracture what's left of the tripartite alliance and possibly result in damage to a broader progressive movement? I mean, does that sit as a point of concern at all?
It's a legitimate point for anybody to raise. It's a risk that exists when you engage in politics, that some decisions may be difficult to swallow and they may be difficult to pursue. But what are the choices that the Communist Party have? The Communist Party has this choice that on the basis of its analysis, it takes a certain strategic decision and it can change that decision on the basis of its observations. Now, of course, we realize that it's important to keep the unity of the alliance. It is us, the Communist Party, in fact, who have been insisting all this time that the alliance must be kept intact. But that price of keeping the alliance intact is not the political annihilation of the Communist Party and its political program. In this instance, the Communist Party is standing for the working class and is indeed believing that its position will improve the political prospects of the working class as a whole.
So you talk, okay, fine, the alliance must be kept intact at all costs. But on the other end, I mean, you're going up against the ANC. Do you think you have the numbers for it? And how is that going to work? I mean, it sounds like staying in an abusive relationship and hoping for change, but staying anyway in case it doesn't happen again.
We don't think that analogy is correct. We've heard it said before. The Communist Party is not a junior partner in the alliance. The Communist Party is a strategic partner in the alliance. The Communist Party is an important organization and has always been in the alliance. So the fact that over the last 30 years, the alliance decision had put the ANC at the forefront of the political processes does not mean that the Communist Party at any time was somewhat limited as a chicken whose mouth has been cut in terms of articulating its political position and developing its perspective. Yeah. It just so happens at this particular point, at a certain height of political contradictions, it has become necessary in terms of our analysis that the Communist Party must change its tact when it comes to how it approaches power and therefore how it approaches elections, and in this instance, go directly into the electoral contest by itself. This has nothing to do with declaring a doom for the alliance. That is not the intention, it never was. In fact, we would like to argue many times that the alliance has been kept by great deliberate actions of the Communist Party itself.
Do you think you have the numbers? I mean, just in the build-up, talking to various political analysts, there's been mixed reaction to whether or not there's substance when it comes to those numbers. Yeah.
The Communist Party understands that we are going into the election next year, the local government election, with a changing political environment in South Africa. There are not many people in the political landscape now who can claim with confidence what kind of numbers they have. The Communist Party goes into the election with confidence that we'll do the work that is necessary. We are confident that the working class is behind the Communist Party as its vanguard, and we don't believe that we will be weakened as a consequence of this particular action. On the contrary, it's one of the many gradual steps that are going to strengthen the political party that is the Communist Party and the working class behind it.
Just looking at another hot topic, I mean, the national dialogue, there's been quite a lot of talk around that. We've seen the legacy foundations pulling out and giving their substantive reasons as to why. I mean, some even arguing that what's the point? A lot of the issues are already out there. They just need to be approached and dealt with. I mean, what's your position as you look to some of the talking points around the national dialogue and whether or not it will really have its impact?
The Communist Party does not object to the idea of a national dialogue. The South African nation is a country that has consolidated a lot of its progress through social dialogue. So we cannot abandon social dialogue at this time. But however, we think that at this time, the leadership and the management and the strategic oversight of the national dialogue processes at this time have been very inadequate, and we think that they've got to be reconsidered so that we can widen the base of the people who are involved in the national dialogue. If that does not happen, it will become a discussion of the elite between themselves, and that it will not have a ground capacity for being groundbreaking, and also being connected to the grassroots where the masses themselves are experiencing their difficulties. But we do not reject as unnecessary the activity and the action itself of the national dialogue.
Another aspect, your General Secretary, Solima Paila, accused some ANC leaders of amnesia, selective amnesia, and opportunism. Yes. Are you at all willing to name those individuals? I mean, who are we talking about here? It's one thing to, talk about it in hindsight, but who are these individuals?
I wouldn't specifically speak on behalf of GS and tell you who he was thinking of. But as a matter of principle, there is a lot of distorted and sometimes deliberate faulty memory among many of the members of the ANC. For example, in the recent time, there's a document that is circulating that claims that the Communist Party has no stake in the National Democratic Revolution, which of course is untrue, because the NDR itself is a communist concept. It was sponsored to the ANC in the 1960s rather, having been developed from the Communist International and so on and so forth. So the amnesia really is not a claim that can be put towards the ANC. If anything, some of the acts of amnesia can be put towards some of the ANC leaders, but the Communist Party is not doing this in order to besmirch the reputation of the organization, the ANC. But we want a sincere conversation and not a mudslinging contest.
Very well. Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening and coming to studio, and thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
There we have it, spokesperson of the SACP, Mbulelo Mandlana, there speaking to us about some of the hot topics around the SACP going it alone, solo, come elections 2026, and of course other hot topics within the public domain.